Today I'm going to show you 3 recipes for pound cake. First, the typical American pound cake, which uses a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, a pound of eggs, and a pound of butter. And turns out a cake that's beautifully textured, a very nice tender crust. And this cake is a variation only because it has the addition of lemon zest in the batter and a rich lemon glaze on top. So good, you're going to love it. The cream cheese pound cake. This one incorporates cream cheese into the batter. It gives you a crust that's unlike any other cake. It is really good. And this cake is made slightly differently, incorporating blanched ground almonds and semolina flour, a tasty alternative to the American pound cake. All of this on Martha Bakes today. This is the typical American pound cake. It's delicious, fine textured, moist, really good pound cake. I love it. This is a traditional bakery pound cake pan. And I have a dish of softened butter and a soft bristle brush. And I find that this really works very effectively to get into the corners and the cracks of any cake pan. Okay, that one's done. Preheat your oven, by the way, to 325. When you start mixing up the cake, you want that oven very well heated. Now, flour. A tablespoon or so in the pan. This is just all-purpose flour. And shake it all over the whole pan. Now, to get out the excess, you don't want to leave any big puddles of flour in there, so shake it out like that. And that is what the pan should look like. Now, we're using cake flour for this cake. I prefer to find the cake flour that does not have any leavening in it. I want to measure sifted cake flour. So I'm sifting 4 cups. That's why you sift. Look at all those lumps. You don't want those in your cake. And now, put that in another bowl. Now we're going to measure the flour. So you just dip in, use the back of a knife, and cut. That's 1 cup of cake flour sifted. There's just no shortcuts. I mean, you cannot not sift. 4. Now we're going to add our baking powder. Again, fresh baking powder, and you can use a knife to measure, and this we're going to have 4 teaspoons. So it's 4 and 4 so far. 2, 3, 4. And 1 teaspoon of salt. Oops, we have it right here. And I use coarse salt. You can use fine salt, but I find the kosher salt works really well. Okay, so now sift this. So that's 1, and then we're going to sift again. And now the next step is creaming the butter. And we have in this recipe 3 sticks of butter that are at room temperature. And we have to add 2 3/4 cups of sugar. And your vanilla, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. I can add that right now to the butter and sugar. So the butter and sugar have become smoother, softer. The sugar granules have started to get soft, not so crunchy. What you are now, turn it on 1 and start adding your eggs 1 at a time. We want 8 eggs, 8 good eggs. And now we're going to add the flour slowly with the cup of milk. And we don't want to overbeat. So we're going to do this rather quickly. And these powerful mixers enable you to do this kind of mixing very quickly. At one point, my daughter and I, we were baking a lot together. We decided we would use no machines. I get kind of tired mixing this by hand, but our grandmas didn't have machines. There, done. Okay, so now release your bowl and proceed with the filling of the cake pans. this cake actually does crack down the center, which looks pretty. And we don't mind the crack in a pound cake as we mind the crack in a cheesecake. So just gently spread the batter so that it gets down into the corners. Looks good. So that'll be ready. And now this one is going to get the zest. So these are Meyer lemons, very fragrant. And if you have a grate grater like this, it simplifies the whole process so well. You just move the grater like this, and I'll do it right over the bowl, taking just the yellow rind off the lemon. Don't go down and take too much of that white pith. That's not what really has all the flavor. Now see that? See how beautiful and yellow it is? Goes nicely with the batter. And again, stir that in and pour this into your pan. And this, with the lemon inside, can also be glazed with a simple confectioner's sugar and lemon juice glaze. That'd be pretty. There. Okay. And now these go right into the oven at 325, approximately 1.5 hours. And I am going to set my timer and check. This pound cake incorporates butter and cream cheese, making a slightly richer batter and a more crumbly, thicker crust. It's a great pound cake, and I think you'll love it. Your family is going to gobble it up. This is my daughter's favorite. Alexis makes this pound cake time and time again, and she begged me to include it in the show. It is a cream cheese pound cake. And something about that cream cheese, in addition to the butter, really makes this a delectable, really fine tasting pound cake. So we have 1.5 cups of butter, that's 3 sticks at room temperature, and 1 package, 8 ounces of Philadelphia cream cheese. And now cream this on sort of medium-low, and add to that 3 cups of sugar. When you're making a cake like this, the most beating should take place in the beginning, when you're doing the creaming and when you're adding the eggs. And then incorporating the flour and the rest of it and the wet ingredients, if there's milk or something else, should happen rather quickly. And 3. And into this goes 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. 6 large eggs, 1 at a time. While that's mixing up, I'm going to stir 3 cups of all-purpose flour with 1 teaspoon of coarse salt. Whisking like this is almost as good as sifting. And now add your dry ingredients. And you can do that with a cup measure like this. Turn down your speed if you have to. You don't want your flour to go flying all over your kitchen. And as with all dry ingredients, you don't want to overbeat. There. I think we've incorporated all the ingredients very nicely. Remove the bowl. Oh, heavy. I think this is a 4-pound cake. No idea how heavy this is, but it is dense and it is creamy and it is beautiful. It smells really good too. And then half into this pan. This is a little wetter batter than the typical American pound cake. And these cakes will bake on a cookie sheet just as they are placed at 325 for 45 to 50 minutes. Very similar to our Meyer lemon pound cake. And again, with your offset spatula, just mound this, and this goes right into the oven with the other pound cakes. Oh, they're just starting to rise in the pan. And these cakes will bake at 325 for 45 to 50 minutes. This pound cake incorporates not only flour, but also semolina. Gives it a crunchy texture to the batter. Your family is gonna gobble it up. So in a bowl of a mixer, put 8 egg whites. And beat these with 1.5 cups of castor sugar. That's a super fine sugar, until they are light and fluffy and glistening. So you have to break up the egg whites first. While these are mixing, I'm going to butter, and you don't have to flour, butter a tube pan. This is like an angel food cake pan. And this is used also for sponge cakes. This is kind of a cross between a pound cake and a sponge cake. So I'm generously buttering with softened butter. This cake gets baked in an oven of 350 degrees. So make sure your oven is preheated when you start making this cake. So there, we have that all buttered. So the 8 egg whites, now sprinkle the sugar, not all at once. This will prevent the egg whites from drying out. The sugar really does make them glistening and keeps their volume. So that's 1 cup and another 1/2 cup. Simple. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And then 12 egg yolks. Add them one at a time. So you have, this is your volume. This is what is going to really keep that cake light and fluffy. So it's kind of fun to make a cake that's differently composed. That's 4. So 12 egg yolks. I think I can keep this going on low speed just to keep the volume up. Just like that. Okay, so now we're gonna cream the butter, 2.5 sticks. So we'll beat up the butter, add your condensed milk, and it is 4 tablespoons of condensed milk. Go all the way down to the bottom of the can because it's thicker down on the bottom. So you want 4 tablespoons of this beaten into your butter. I have a confession to make. I love condensed milk. And one reason I don't like to use it very much is because I will put this can in the refrigerator, and then as my little sinful snack, I'll take a spoon of it out of the can. It's so delicious. It's not a carrot stick. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla powder. And vanilla powder is really finely ground vanilla bean seeds. And look what I'm adding, the zest of 1 bright-skinned orange. Now we're going to add the egg white and egg yolk mixture to this part of the batter. And these have maintained their volume very nicely. These are beautiful. So they got quite voluminous when you beat the egg whites first. I like that technique. So we're just going to pour this in. I love these pouring spouts. They are very useful. So you don't want to overmix this, so I'm going to take this off and do the rest of the folding in by hand. I want you to see how this is done. Don't want to overbeat this cake. You don't want to lose the volume. Now you can see how dark the bottom is. All that butter and vanilla, orange zest. That's what you want to incorporate into the egg mixture. And then we're going to fold in the rest of the egg batter. So creamy, so delicious. So now we'll fold in the flour, and I'm going to just sift it right over the batter. That's our 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons of 1 sifted flour. and sifted again. Now folding in, you go from the center and are all the way around, down to the bottom of the bowl. You want to incorporate the dry into the wet without deflating what you have in the bowl already. And now we're going to add 1 cup of blanched and finely chopped almonds. Sprinkle those on top. And then you finish with 1 1/4 cups finely ground semolina. And fold. And 1/4 cup. It's great to have plenty of measuring cups when you're baking, plenty of spatulas. This looks good. Looks like it's very well mixed, but not over mixed. And we're going to put this into our prepared tube pan. Now this goes into your oven and it will bake for 30 to 35 minutes. You may then cover the top with a piece of foil and continue to bake for an additional 10 to 20 minutes. Here are 2 easy garnishes for these pound cakes. For the semolina cake, I like to do sugar-baked orange slices. And it's hard to slice them very thinly. I like to use this Japanese cleaver, but you can use a chef's knife, a slicing knife. What you really want is a good orange slice. And we can just put these on a parchment-lined baking sheet like this and put them in the bottom of the oven in which the cakes are baking. Now, in a strainer like this, put about 1/2 cup of powdered sugar and very generously sugar these oranges. A good thick coating of this powdered sugar. This melts, you do not see it, so you can put quite a bit on. So those go right into the oven. Watch them. An oven of about 325 degrees is perfect. Now here are 2 of the pound cakes. This one has the Meyer lemon in it, and this is the plain one. This has been out of the oven for 10 minutes. Just go around the entire cake with an offset spatula like this. And we can now turn this over. So I'm going to slide this right onto a rack. And I'll show you how easily it comes out. Look how beautiful that is. You can gently turn it over. And the beauty of a well-made pound cake, it doesn't fall apart. It is very, very nicely shaped. Now the glaze is made out of lemon rind. This is a Meyer lemon. And again, we want the zest from 1 lemon, 2 3/4 cups of confectioner's sugar, and 1/4 cup of Meyer lemon juice. So here's your zest. And just cut that lemon in half. And squeeze it. Oh, the fragrance is amazing. Meyer lemons tend to have a lot of seeds, so they're not a great candidate for candying the lemon slices. Okay, so that goes into our bowl. And 2, almost 3 cups of confectioner's sugar. Use a whisk. Now this is looking almost thick enough, so I'm going to add maybe 1/2 cup more. Looks very good. And now you can just pour a little bit of this onto the top of your cake while it's still warm. And it will gently drip down the sides. And then every bite you have of the cake will have a little bit of that sour lemon taste. It's very good. And now the semolina cake. This has been cooled. I want to decorate this with those candied orange slices. You can do it on the cake pedestal or serve those beautiful slices with each slice of cake. I think that's what I'm going to do. Doesn't that look beautiful? Now you can serve this with a dollop of whipped cream, a spoonful of creme fraiche, or even a scoop of buttermilk ice cream. Wouldn't that be good? Here you have it. 3 really, really good pound cakes. All different, all delicious. From Martha Bakes.